Welcome. Today, we're diving into a book that has truly influenced millions of people. Norman Vincent Peale's classic, The Power of Positive Thinking. It's an idea that's so simple, yet so profound.
You know that feeling, right? That little voice in your head that tells you you're going to fail, that you're not good enough. It feels like no matter what's going on around you, the biggest hurdle you're facing is you.
Well, according to our source for this explainer, you're not crazy. You might actually be right. But here's the good news. You also hold all the power to flip the script. The biggest battles aren't out there. They're right between your own ears.
So, before we can get to the solution, we've really got to understand the problem. Peale calls it something pretty dramatic, the tyranny of self-doubt.
He talks about this thing called the inferiority complex. And it's basically when your mind is just completely soaked in self-doubt. It's when those thoughts of, I can't do it, or I'm not enough, become the default setting, dominating everything else.
And what fuels this whole thing? Worry. Get this. The word worry actually comes from an old word that means to choke. And isn't that the perfect description? Worry literally chokes our creativity, it strangles our confidence, and it cuts us off from our own potential.
And this creates a really dangerous cycle. As Peale puts it, we have this power to create the very thing we're afraid of, just by thinking about it. If you constantly think, I'm going to fail that presentation, you start acting in tiny ways that, well, make you fail. It's a classic self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, but here is the big pivot. This is the aha moment of the whole book. If our minds are powerful enough to create negative results, then it stands to reason they have the exact same power to create positive ones. So here's the central idea in a nutshell. You can change your entire life just by changing the way you think. It's not your circumstances that define you, it's the thoughts that you let live in your head day in and day out.
Peale basically lays out two paths you can take. You've got the negative mindset, which is always looking for obstacles, always focused on fear, and it pretty much leads straight to failure. But then you've got the positive mindset. It's always looking for possibilities, it builds confidence, and that path leads towards success and happiness. And the most important part? You get to choose which path to walk.
Now, this idea wasn't totally new. Peale was a huge fan of the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." It just hammers home the point that we aren't fixed beings. We are literally creating ourselves with our thoughts, every single moment.
Okay, so the philosophy is great, right? But how do you actually do it? How do you go from being a worrier to a warrior? Well, let's get into the practical tools Peale gives us.
He boils it down to a pretty simple three-step process. First, you have to actively condition your thoughts. Second, you learn to picture your success. And third, a big part of his philosophy was connecting to a higher power for strength.
Let's break down step 1, conditioning your thoughts. You can think of this like going to the gym for your brain. For years, your mind might have been running on these old, negative tracks. So now you have to intentionally feed it new thoughts, thoughts of confidence and strength, over and over again until they become the new default.
Peale tells this fantastic story about a salesman who was just drowning in fear and his business was failing. He took Peale's advice and started clipping little cards with positive affirmations all over his car's dashboard. He'd read them out loud all day, every day. And you know what? Before long, his whole attitude changed, his confidence shot up, and his business completely turned around.
Step 2 is all about visualization, or what Peale called picturizing. The idea is simple. Create a super clear, vivid mental movie of the successful outcome you want, and then you just hold on to that picture like your life depends on it, because your mind, he says, has this incredible drive to complete whatever it pictures. There's this other great story about a magazine that was about to go under. The staff was challenged to stop focusing on their problems and instead start vividly picturing having 100,000 subscribers. And from the moment they did that, with real faith, things started to change. The right ideas, the right people, and the money just started to show up.
So what does this look like when real people apply it? I mean, the book is just packed with these incredible stories of transformation. Let's just touch on a couple.
So there was this 52-year-old guy who felt his life was over. His business failed and he was convinced he had lost everything. But when he sat down and actually made a list, he realized what he really had. A wonderful wife, loving kids, good friends, his health, his integrity. Once he shifted his focus from what was gone to what was still there, everything changed. He found the strength to start again.
And then there's this really moving story of a woman whose marriage was on the brink of collapse. Instead of giving up, she just started to picture things the way she wanted them to be. She'd visualize her husband sitting in his favorite chair, their family happy again. And she held on to that vision with so much faith that over time, it actually became her reality.
So all of these stories, all of these techniques, they all point back to one powerful, central truth. We have a choice. We get to choose the thoughts we think, and in doing so, we choose the life we live.
This is really the bottom line. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about understanding that your attitude about those problems is way more powerful than the problems themselves. Your thoughts can either build a prison or they can open a door to a whole new world.
And this isn't just wishful thinking. Peale backed it up with the work of the famous psychologist William James, who called this the single greatest discovery of his time. The idea that we can literally change our lives by changing our minds. That gives it some serious weight, doesn't it?
So I'll leave you with this to think about. If your thoughts are the building blocks of your reality, what kind of reality are you building for yourself right now? And more importantly, what one negative thought could you decide to change starting today? Because according to Vincent Peale, that single, simple choice, well, it could change absolutely everything.